Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one is regarding a question somebody asked me when it comes to therapy. Should I take therapy? Should I go to see a therapist? Will that somehow distract me from the path of remembering who I am and blah blah blah, right? So I'm going to read you the question, and then I'm going to share the answer that that life through this instrument felt like answering. And then if I have to add anything to it, we'll do it at the end of the video. And the question goes: Hi Nick, good morning. I'm considering psychological therapy to try to fix some aspects of my conditioning, if that can be fixed. My life has a certain order compared to how it could be, but I often get the feeling of I don't like my life. And I believe that a psychologist can help me fix that. But I also get the fear of abandoning the teaching or the desire to awaken and remaining in the sweetness of life if therapy, let's say, fixes me. I don't believe much in psychology except to repair the character and improve their life a little. I am also afraid of talking to them about this whole spiritual path and ending up prejudiced and pigeonholed, as some psychologists tend to do. It seems that their vision is limited to the material and they experience little or no spiritual life. Without shifting my responsibility or putting you in a kind of bind, I wanted to ask your opinion on this. Will it hinder therapy, or will it be worse for the consolidation of what A Course in Miracles and Advaita Vedanta teach? And thank you, Hugs. Well, this is the answer that came through me, which is: the script is unfolding as it will. If your script calls for you to go to a therapist, you will go to a therapist. If the script calls for you not to go to a therapist, you will not go to a therapist. Love can speak through any instrument if you're open and ready to listen to it. Therefore, love can speak through a book called A Course in Miracles, just as it can speak through a therapist, a friend, a neighbor, or a stranger. The point here is not necessarily what to do to fix the character. It is about not losing sight of the awareness that I simply am, and not identifying with the content of the mind. Once that work is established, if the script calls for you to see a therapist, life will naturally take you in that direction. So don't get so caught up in those mental concepts. Don't let the mind entangle you with more concepts. Just observe how you're exploring different paths until perhaps the moment comes when you realize that what you are looking for or searching for is yourself. That's why I cannot tell you what to do or not to do about it. But I can tell you that nothing can affect who you are in essence. What that means is that when you're sleeping and dreaming, whether or not you go to a therapist in the dream cannot affect the fact that you are and have always been the one in bed sleeping. That's the message itself. So, what you end up doing or not doing in the world of appearances is completely irrelevant. Continue resting in your experience of being in the I am, so to speak. Don't identify with the content of the mind, and you will have the direct experience of what it's like to be at peace, that peace that surpasses all understanding. And if life feels you need help that appears to take the form of something external, like therapy, for example, life will direct you to the perfect therapist who is more in line with the truth than one who is totally identified with the ego. And don't let the mind get entangled now with questions like, how do I know which therapist is right for me and which one isn't? Simply choose peace above all else and trust the direction life is taking you. Period. If you find one that isn't right for you, you will naturally find yourself moving away from it. And if you find one that is right for you, then resonance will tell you so, and your experience of peace is the result. Always remember, whatever is taking place in the world cannot affect who you are in essence. These words you are reading do not come from me. They come from the same consciousness speaking to itself to remind itself of the nature of its being. And keep in mind that in this dream, mistakes cannot be made. There are only experiences that give you the opportunity to observe whether you are identified with the mind, with thoughts, or not. So as you can see, it's very simple. When the priority goes to the peace of mind, inner peace, which is not the story the mind is conjuring up, then you observe how life is unfolding, because we're pointing to the fact that we are, not whether I should go to a therapist or not. That will happen if it's supposed to happen, and if it's not supposed to happen, will not happen. All we have to remember is that if you really do the investigation, you notice that the mind conjures up stories, and we attach to those stories. The first stories that the mind made up was the story I, individual, and consequently the individual appears to have many stories. I have good self-esteem, I feel good about myself, I can do or I cannot, or I am horrible, I cannot do things, I am not incapable, whatever. But if you really look at them, if you sit right now in presence, you notice that the two are stories that have nothing to do with what I am. We're pointing to the I am. You see, not the details of the movie. So right now, if you don't identify with any thoughts, just don't identify. Let them be. They will be there. Thoughts will be there always. That's what they do. But if you don't identify with them, what remains? Don't answer me. If you answer me, you're back to the mind. I'm pointing to what remains, resting in the I am. This I amness, okay, without story. Are there any problems? Is there something to be fixed? You see? It simply is. Well, as you begin to, or life through you begins to prioritize that peace above all else, you see? As life begins to prioritize that all the stories begin to fall by the wayside. They begin to fall on their own. And then realize that there was nothing to fix. Because trying to fix the character is because I'm trying to somehow be the idea that the mind says that I am, and also is basically resisting whatever feelings, sensations that are appearing right now, that actually is life pushing us to go beyond them, you see, not necessarily to fix them. In other words, sometimes the discomforting feelings are actually invitations to realize that there's a dimension, there's something beyond that, because the discomfort is just that, but the story that the mind conjures up is what colors it, and then we're trying to avoid it, we're trying to fix, when in reality the healing happens when the experience is allowed, you see. This is very interesting because it's the opposite what we were taught. We were taught that we need to fix. If I feel this way, I need to do something about it. And yes, in the human experience, if there's pain and something can be done, that's fine. But we're addressing here psychological pain. We're not addressing physical pain. You see, psychological pain is always attached to a story. It doesn't have to do with facts. It never have to do with truth. It only a story believed in. That is psychological suffering. If you don't believe the content of the mind, you cannot suffer, you see, because you're resting in the peace that passes all understanding. Pain could be, pleasure could be, but there's no suffering, you see. And it seems to be that in this particular case, the person, you see, the individual is suffering. And of course, the person is the one who suffers, not the consciousness, not the presence, not the beingness. That doesn't suffer. That doesn't feel anything. That's just a space-like in which all seem to appear. But once there's identification with the character, of course, you're going to spend your whole life trying to fix the character, but no matter how many times you try to fix it, will never be enough, because the character is a thought of separation. The character is a belief in separation. Consequently, the character is scarcity, is scarce. That's what the character is. The human being feels scarce, feels separate, feel like apart from wholeness. But you are wholeness. So no matter what I do to try to make this character feel better, it appears that may seem to be feeling better for a while or whatever, as long as it has distractions, but in the end, it always have a sense of lack. There's something missing. In reality, there's nothing missing. But the belief that I'm a person is what gives the illusion that there's something missing. When there's a recognition that I am, nothing could be missing, because I am wholeness, I am everything. And that's why one of the greatest quotes from the scriptures or the Bible says, "Seek you first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all of the things will be added on to you." The Course in Miracles uses the same quote, but it adds on, know who I am, Instead of seek you first, just say I am, and you have found, who you are. In other words, if I get to know who I am, I rest in the peace that passes all understanding. I am wholeness, and everything that is needed is provided naturally by life itself, because life takes care of life. But we're not talking about the things that I think I want or so. I'm pointing to the fact that as I rest in I am, just notice how life unfolds, and you're at peace as you watch the show and don't be dragged by it with or through the content or identification with the mind. There's a difference between you watching a movie in 3D, you see you have the 3D glasses, and if you don't believe the movie, you're simply observing the movie as it's unfolding. But if you believe the movie, and even in the movie you feel that you're a character somebody's talking to, and somebody's telling you you're not good enough or whatever, and you're truly believing it, now you're thinking, I need therapy to fix myself, but there's nothing to fix, because you're not in the movie, you're not part of the movie, you're the observer of the movie. See? Well, the invitation in these videos is first to recognize that you are, so in a sense you become more like the witness rather than the protagonist. You see, you are the witness of it all. And right now, if you don't identify with any thought, especially with the concept or the thought I, separate individual, then what is there to fix? Is there anything to fix? No, because you're not identified with whatever concept that the mind has sold you about who you are and what you think is wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing right with you. All that there is what is. You simply are. I am. Love is. God is. Life is. End of story. Without story, there's no need to fix anything. And like I said again, I didn't say to this person not to see a therapist. I simply said, just choose peace above all else. Make that the most important thing, and observe how life unfolds. And if you need to see a therapist, life will present you the right therapist. And if you realize that you are, maybe the idea of trying to fix the character drops away, and then you realize that there was no need to see anyone, because I am. You're resting in the I amness, which is what these videos are always pointing to. And well, this is what came through this instrument. I hope it served. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.